Hey, kia ora. Hello, I'm from coming live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic sparkling start to Magic Monday. Yes, that day of the week where we create magic that's going to take place all week. I don't know about you, but I hope you had a super fantastic sparkling weekend. My weekend was amazing. I got so much genealogy done. I'm like, I want to do more. I want to do more. I'm trying to figure out how to get more, how to get some genealogy into my weekdays this week, but it's not going to work. I have too many other commitments going on this week, so it means I've got to wait. I may be able to do some in the evenings, but by the time I get to the evenings at the end of a workday, I'm sort of like, yeah, my brain's fried. It's gonna screw up my dates, because I was looking at some of the stuff that I have done on weeknights, and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? How did I even come up with that? Where did that come from? I don't have any source information in there. Where did I get that bit of information from? Because when the brain gets a little fried, I forget to do simple things like write down sources, make sure it's attached to information. But this weekend was awesome. I got so much done for clients and things. So yeah, it was. And I was looking at a piece of information this morning, and I'm like, how did that line up with that? So I'm sort of like, okay, I see the source information there, but that person's name's different. Why did I accept that piece of information? So, yeah, there's going to be, I've got a couple of places I have to go clean up some stuff. And I'm kind of like, yeah, that just doesn't make sense. So yeah, obviously I got a little tired at the end of the day when I put that piece of information in, because normally I'm a little sharper than that. So it's going to be a great week. I'm deeming it so. I am setting the intention that this week is going to be a very magical week. There's going to be a lot of great stuff done this week, a lot of great ideas, a lot of stuff settled. It's just going to be an awesome, awesome week. I am like fired up for this week. I haven't even had any planning time this week. Normally I do it on a Sunday, but I was dog park, drive home, genealogy. That's it. Oh, I did get groceries done. But basically it was all about the genealogy this weekend. Nothing about getting my planner out, making sure everything's up to date in there, blocking in some time for different things. Nope, none of that was done this week. So I had to spend a few minutes this morning getting some of that organized, and looking at my calendar and going, oh yeah, I've got that on today. It's not my typical Monday. So take time today, if you didn't get a chance to do it over the weekend, to get your planning in place for the week. I've got to watch where that bit of light is. End up in different places. It's the problem with these blinds. They've got these little holes in them where the sun comes through. Well, you need them for the string to go through, but you can end up putting bits of lights in funny places. So I'm taking some time to do a little bit of planning for this week, but it's going to be an awesome week. I know it is. Set the intention that this week is going to be an amazing week for you. That's all I can suggest is, it's the last full week before Christmas, and I'm not counting next week as a full week before Christmas, since Friday is the day that, because Christmas Day and New Year's Day both appear on Saturdays this year, they are being observed on the Fridays beforehand. So Christmas Eve is actually a day off for those working, because it's a federal holiday on the 24th as well as on the 31st. Because they are taking those days to observe Christmas Day on the 24th and observe New Year's Day on the 31st. I had to remember my dates. So be conscious of that. So this is the last full week of work before Christmas. Yeah, that's all I can say about that. So we're going to make this an incredible week, a very magical week leading up into a lot of kids. I don't know if the kids are out of school yet on winter break. It's kind of fun not having kids in school. I don't know what the schedules are anymore. I have to go look them up. So if I'm like thinking of taking a trip or anything, it's sort of like, okay, the kids in school, let's go look it up and have a look. Yeah, because I have no clue. I don't know when they're breaking for winter break. So this may be the last full week that the kids are in school before winter break. Who knows? But anyway, I'm out of here. Your question of today is our theme of the month. What is one of your favorite holiday memories? And you've had lots of holiday memories over the years. So this is why we're keeping it there for the month. So you can, and holidays is not just Christmas and New Year. It could be spring break. It could be a summer vacation, any vacation. In New Zealand, we use the term holiday instead of vacation. So when we go on holiday in New Zealand, we go on what you guys call vacation. So to us, holiday is getting out of the house, going, visiting family and friends, going on a road trip, going camping, traveling overseas, whatever it is. So what are some of your favorite holiday memories? One of my favorite holiday memories is in 10 years ago this month. And I actually sent this to my birthday twin. And it was 10 years ago on the 7th of December when we arrived in Prague. And Brad and I arrived in Prague. We got taken to the International Continental, whatever the hotel was. And we were like a couple of blocks from the Christmas market that was close by to us. We were doing a Christmas market river cruise. And so we flew into Prague, and it was a very long flight. Thankfully, we were business class all the way, so we had room to stretch out, seats that almost laid flat and all that sort of nice stuff that you just have to have on long haul flights. And we got there and got to meet some of the other people that were going to be cruising with us as well. The next day we got up, they put us on buses to take us on a tour around Prague. And we were going to be doing that for the mornings, and they were going to drop us off at the Christmas market, and then we could walk back to the hotel. And to walk back to the hotel, from the hotel down to the square where the Christmas market was Prague's equivalent of Rodeo Drive. It had all the brand names. It was all swanky. It was, it was all these luxury shops and everything, designer stores and all that. And it was kind of cool to walk up and down. They had beautifully lit streets at night. And we actually walked down on our second night in Prague. They all went off to do went to do some gypsy dinner thing. My problem is I'm allergic to onions, which is a main staple in food where we were. So I was just sort of like, yeah, that's going to be fun. But we had actually elected not to do that part of the trip. We thought we're just going to have a nice quiet night at the hotel. We're going to go for a walk down to the Christmas market because we've been there during the day. We actually ended up getting off the buses partway through our tour because we were going to go up to the castle there in Prague, but we got told that morning we couldn't do it because what was his name? The Russian President Putin had arrived. Unexpected had arrived, and that was all closed off, and they had roads blocked off and everything else, and so the buses couldn't really go anywhere. So we just all offloaded off the buses, and our tour guides just did a walking tour. And we had those things where you had the headphones, we had an earpiece in your ear that was attached to a little box, and that box was attached to was wirelessly transferred to the microphone that the tour guide was wearing, so we could stand around and look around and take photographs and all of that. And Brad would wander off and take photographs, but he could hear all the commentary going on in his ear, and he knew how far he could go to get out before he got out of range of that thing. They were like 30 feet or something like that, 30 or 40 feet. And so we had those, which were just awesome tools. I thought this is the best way to tour. You have these little earpieces. You can go, if you're in a cathedral or something, you can go wandering off. It means the tour guide doesn't have to yell. And it was really cool. And we got to go across the bridge and down the steps. That was all involved with the first Mission Impossible movie. We got shown where it was all shot. Remember this? How many of you have seen Mission Impossible? And I think most of us had anyway. She said, well, you remember this scene that this is where it took place, and this is where we did. We had all this closed off over here. She's telling us the whole thing. It was a really cool tour. And then on my birthday, which of course is the 9th, which is 2 days later, that was the day we left Prague. We're put on buses, taken down to Nuremberg to board the river cruise. And it was while we were on that river cruise that I got to meet my birthday twin. And we were at the captain's reception. The captain's reception was really cool. The first night there, we walking into the room, the officers are all lined up in their uniforms. And there was one of the staff members the crew members was standing there with this bouquet of roses and would give a red rose to the captain. And he was giving the red rose to all the women and would get a kiss on the cheek. And I thought, this is really cool. My first river cruise, so this was really cool. Got a kiss on the cheek from the captain and a red rose, and the guys got a hearty handshake. So it was really cool. And we met these two other couples. There was Mo and Hank and Sue and Kurt, and we ended up having in the pre-dinner cocktail thing, we ended up sitting together having these great conversations, and they announced that dinner was ready, and dinner's open seating. You can sit anywhere. And so Sue suggested that the 6 of us stay together and continue our conversation. We sure. So we get down, Brad's sitting at the head of the table, I'm on his right, Mo's on his left, so she's directly opposite me. Then there's Hank, and then there was Kurt at the other end of the table, and then Sue was next to me. And when it came, and I'd already been told, because I got the choice of a cruise leaving on the 9th or leaving on the 16th. I says, no, I'm doing the 9th. It's my birthday. And they says, oh, do you mind if we make a fuss about your birthday? I'm like, absolutely not. And so she said, just stay through dessert. That's all I can tell you, stay through desserts. It's like, okay. So we had this great meal and everything else. And the ship had been advised that I had an allergy to onions. And so the maitre d' was really cool. He'd come over to me each night, and he would already find out from the chef each night what dishes could be made without onions or what ones to avoid and that sort of thing. And he would take me through the different menus, because they had the standard menu on one side of the thing, which was, this is going to be here throughout, which had chicken and steak and pasta. And then this is the local menu based on the local foods within the area, the ethnic foods within that area that we were sailing through. And so he would go get the list. He'd come over, tell me. I would tell him what I wanted. All done. It was really cool. And they had a very small kitchen, though. Very, very small kitchen. But we had a great time on that river cruise. And then, of course, came to dessert time. And they come out with this cake and put it in front of Mom. And we're like, hey, it's your birthday. She's like, yes. And so she told us how old she was turning. I was like, that's awesome. Congratulations. Happy birthday. I didn't say a word. I just sat there and waited. And then they came over and put a cake in front of me. And she's like, is it your birthday too? And I went, absolutely. And there's 15 years between the two of us. And she was like, oh my gosh. And Sue's sitting there going, what are the chances? We had 130 passengers on board that ship. And it's like, well, no, I think that was with crew, because it's a very light sailing, that one. There was like 136 people on board that ship. And she's like, what are the chances that we happen to sit? And she says to us, what are the chances that we happen to sit at the table with 2 birthday girls, all celebrating their birthdays on the same day? And then later on, the cruise manager, who's like cruise director, she comes up to us and she says, I can't believe what you two did. And we're like, well, we didn't even know it was each other's birthdays. She said, well, the maitre d' came over to me and said, oh, we're our birthday girls sitting. And she said, and Chris, who was our cruise director, said to us, she says, you're not going to believe this, they're sitting at the same table. And he's like, what? And she was like, no. She goes, did you guys plan that? We went, nope, we didn't know it was each other's birthdays until you put the cake in front of us. That you put the cakes in front of us. We didn't know it was each other's birthday. Well, I knew at that point when they put it in front of Mo that it was her birthday and my birthday. She didn't know until they put the cake in front of me that it was my birthday as well. And Sue had no clue. So that was kind of cool. And we ended up sailing down the main Danube Canal onto the Danube River, and we had a blast on that river. We did have issues where somebody who had been very sick a few days before they took the flight to come to Prague, we actually ended up on the Brad and I were put onto a bus to take us from the airport to the hotel when we arrived in Prague. There's a girl that got on with her mom, and the whole way, and there was just the 4 of us and the bus driver, and the whole way to the hotel, she's telling us about how sick she had been, that she hadn't been able to keep food down for the last few days. And I'm sitting there looking at Brad and I'm going, why the hell is she even on this trip? She shouldn't be on this trip. And I was one of the unfortunate ones that got the stomach flu. It was a 24-hour stomach flu, and it took out half the ship. There were a couple of people that they ended up calling the doctor for me at one point, because I thought I was over all the vomiting and other stuff. And I was quarantined into my cabin for 24 hours, which meant I missed my trip to Vienna, Salzburg, where Sound of Music took place. They're doing a Sound of Music bus trip, and we were going to leave in one port, go down to Salzburg, and it was a whole day trip, go down, spend time in Salzburg, and then come back up and meet up with the riverboat at another destination, because we were doing 2 destinations that day. And so I completely missed that trip. It took out half the ship and crew. Half the passengers and crew got taken out with this 24-hour stomach flu. And Brad and I both knew exactly who had brought it on board, because we'd heard about it all the way from the airport. But I couldn't go out. I didn't leave the ship for 2 days, but that was fine. I was, I thought, well, normally I'm not the one that gets sick. but we had all the whole stomach flu stuff going on. They did bring a doctor on board the ship for me at one point, and so they it's all in Regensburg, which was one place I really wanted to go see. It's a medieval city. It's the whole city's medieval city. There's one place I really wanted to go see, and so I was kind of bummed about that. And so they actually brought the doctor on board. Then one of the crew members went into town, picked up my prescription, and brought it back and translated everything for me, since it was all written in German. And they wrote it all out in English for me so that we knew what it was and how often I had to take these tablets and everything else. And then so the first 2 days, I was basically, first day I was in cabin, second day I went up to the lounge area, still drinking my ginger ale. They were so sweet on board. They brought down, if anything you need, because I had to stay in my cabin, anything you need at all. And so I was like, "You're gonna need white bread with honey?" Because that was one of the things that my mum always used to give us, was white bread with honey. And then another one she used to give us, of course, was chicken soup. So yeah, we got chicken soup and we got white bread with honey, and I got ginger ale as well, which I would then leave sitting on the thing and stir it up a little bit to try and flatten it and that sort of thing. And then we were in Milk, and they have this gorgeous Abbey in Milk that I wanted to go see, but of course I couldn't. And so Mo and Sue took Brad into town with them. And Brad said, "Do you want me to bring back anything?" I said, "I want my fridge magnets and my postcards, because wherever I go, I always buy fridge magnets and postcards. They're the smallest souvenir that have the greatest memories." And when I'm looking for the fridge magnets, I'm looking for something that I had been to see that I could have a memory of. And kind of the same with postcards, because they could get they got these really cool, postcards give really cool photographs. And so Hank and Kurt were, I think they were quarantined in the cabin. That's right. They both came down. Hank was on the bus trip down to Salzburg, and Kurt was in the cabin sick. And so Sue and Mo took Brad into town, and he walked around with them. He was kind of like their bodyguard type of thing, being 6'5". He kind of had a presence, but he was the biggest teddy bear you ever want to meet. And he went up to the Abbey with them. They did all this walking and everything. And on the way back down, they reminded him to go get the magnets and postcards. So they also helped him select the magnets and postcards to bring back for me. And I spent the day in the lounge area with my feet up on the couch and just writing. I did a whole day of writing. It was awesome. And so it was a good trip. And then I got off in Vienna, and we got to Vienna, and I got to do the tour there and got some soccer tour. Oh, that's good stuff. But yeah, that was one of the best river cruises, and that was 10 years ago this month. And by the time we got into, we had a night in Budapest. Got to Budapest in Hungary, and they took us on we pulled in that morning. They took us on the bus tour. Then we did a night tour as well, so we could see the whole city lit up at night, which was absolute from the river. It was stunning. It was a stunning view. And then the next morning, we were supposed to disembark at a certain time, but they were kicking everybody off early because they had to disinfect the entire ship. And as soon as you were out of your cabin, they were in there stripping it. Stripping all the bedding off, all the towels were out, any cloth thing, the robes, the towels, everything, even all the speaker things that we had, the little monitor earpieces that we had, were put into special bags and all taken off to be completely disinfected and everything else. And they were in there just cleaning like crazy. And you really got to know the crew on that trip too, because there's so few crew members. You really got to know the crew. And one of the guys there was telling us, and him and his wife sail on the ship and attended the crew, and she was one of the room stewards. And we found out that she had gotten sick as well. And so we're always asked, whenever we saw him, we said, "Oh, how's your wife doing?" All that sort of stuff. So you got to hear about the romance side of working on a river cruise, and that sort of thing. We got a time up in the bridge with the captain, and we were even we're coming up to this bridge, and we're just, there's like four of us sitting across the back there, and we're sitting there, and the captain just quietly, he's standing up there, and he's just doing the little adjustments on the wheel and He just reaches across, presses this button, and the next thing we hear is bop, bop, bop. And we starts going, and as it's going bop, 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 we're going lower into the riverboat. And I'm like, what? And we had a bridge coming up, and we had to pull the wheelhouse down so we could fit underneath the bridge. And just so you know, riverboats are built to a certain size. There is a maximum length and a maximum width and a maximum height. And it's because of the heights of the bridges. And then the width and the length is because of the locks that you go through. And so we're going down, and we had about this much window space to look at as we're going underneath these bridges. And then he left us down there, and we're like, what? And then there was another bridge coming up. And so we get past that bridge, and he presses the button, and we start going bark, bark, bark as we go back up in the wheelhouse again. And then we saw the locks coming up, so we got to watch as we went into the locks, tied off at the side there. There was a guy who was standing outside the wheelhouse, and he's like hanging over the side there, and he's got a little joystick, and he's guiding us into the locks and into place. And then we turn behind, and we had a 360-degree view from up there. So we turn around, we see the lock gates close, and then we're sitting there, and we just start going down because the water was being drained out of the lock. And there's these massive doors in front, and you do not have a lot of space with these riverboats. We were in one that was a single width, and I still got video of it, but there's like about this much space between the edge of the boat and the wall of the lock. You could stand there and just touch the walls of the locks, and it was both sides. But these massive gates there, and then they just open. And we just sailed on out, and we turned around and watched the massive gates close again. And I think we went under 2 bridges and went through 3 locks while we were up there with the cat. And he didn't mind us staying up there and just asking questions, but mainly we just sat there, and it was silent. It was so quiet up there. You couldn't hear the engines. It was just peaceful, and you had these gorgeous scenery just as we're floating down the river. This gorgeous scenery in front of us, to the sides of us, and then he kind of moves over the different side of the river, and we're like, "How do you know how to move to the river?" And he goes, "See those lights over there? That says red. It means I got to come this way." And then when I see the green light, I got to head towards the green. And he's looking for the green. So we're looking for the green lights, telling the captain where to go. But it was a fantastic trip. And at the end of it, because we'd flown over on our air miles, they had a blackout for Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday nights. And we arrived in Budapest on a Friday. And so with our Merit Reward points, we had secured a room at a courtyard, which was in the downtown area of Budapest. And so we got taken to the hotel there. We bought a 72-hour pass, and the 72-hour pass in Budapest gave us unlimited public transportation on the trains, the trams, the buses. Trains, trams, and buses. Yeah, trains, trams, and buses. We could go anywhere in Budapest on these 72-hour passes. We got taken to one of the stops they did on the tour is we got taken to the Christmas market. And we were there during the day with all the tourists. And so we figured out how to get back there taking the tram, because our hotel we could watch the trams come in and out of their yard, and their first stop was right in front of our hotel. We could see the buses going, and there was a train station right there as well. So great location. Oh, and across the road was a McDonald's. It was funny watching so many people walking in and out of McDonald's, and was like, we don't want that. Not doing that. So we'd hop on the train, go down, and there got off about a block from where the Christmas market was, and we would go in there in the evenings and get dinner. And totally different atmosphere from morning to night. So from during the day when all the tourists are there, you go down at night, no tourists, all locals, more booths open, a lot more food booths open at night as well. And we just had a blast. We had no idea what anybody was saying, but we were just sitting there. Had these great big long community tables, like picnic tables, just end on end with all the bench seats and everything on either side. And we would just plonk ourselves down there and just listen to what was going on around us. And you get the aromas of all this gorgeous food that was being cooked. And Brad went to this bakery thing to get us dessert, and he comes back and he gives me and I'm not a big white chocolate fan, but I will tell you this was a white chocolate apple strudel. Yeah, I had that 3 nights in a row. And Brad wanted some. I'm like, no, go get your own. It was the most divine apple strudel I have ever had. I mean, this was 10 years ago. I can still taste that apple strudel. I only had it 3 nights in a row. And that bakery stand was not open during the day, so we couldn't even go down there in the day to get it. It was only open at night. but yeah, totally different atmosphere. So you got to hang with the locals. And so we'd just find a little place at the end of a table and we'd just listen to everything going on around us. And somebody would start singing, and then this whole group of people would join in singing. And it was just a very festive community, great community feel, and just very festive atmosphere. I can still smell the food that was cooking. It was just incredible. And like we'd walk in there and go, where's that coming from? That smells really good. What is it? Where's it coming from? But you had all of that. And then we went into the market. We spent time at the market there, which is where everybody goes and buys their vegetables and their produce and their fresh spices. And oh my gosh, the bakery area. We had a lot of baked goods when we were over there. It was really good, but it was like stuff it was just like stuff you just don't get here. It was so fresh. The pastries were made very differently. There's sparkly lights outside. It was just an incredible atmosphere. We had such a blast. So much good times. That was 10 years ago, and that was just one of our holidays that we took, and that was the only one that we took to Europe together. So and we always wanted to go back and do another river cruise. But that was a Christmas market cruise. We got to see the Christmas markets in Vienna. We got to see the ones at the Schlossberg. Hang on, what was the name of that castle? We did the tour through the castle. When we came out, the Christmas market in the courtyard was open, so we got to do that. So one in Vienna. Schallenberg Castle? What's the name of that castle? But yeah, every port that we went to, they had Christmas markets on, and each one they were all very different Christmas markets. We had a blast at one of them. They had these donuts, and I thought, oh, that'll be fun. Get a donut. And these things were like about this round and about this thick. And they go, oh, what filling would you like? And we're like, what? And I thought that they had these big, tall glass urns. And I thought these urns were actually drinks. And it turned out one was full of lemon filling, one was strawberry filling, one was raspberry filling, one was chocolate. And I said, well, what flavors do you have? And she said, oh, well, we've got, and she's pointing to these urns. And I go, oh, I thought those were drinks. And she said, no, they're the fillings for the donuts. And I'm like, okay, so I'll have the chocolate one. Chocolate, why not? But I would tell you, the chocolate in that donut was incredible. I tell you, Europeans know how to do chocolate, and they know how to do it right. But that was just incredible chocolate. And meanwhile, we were looking around, and they've got those guys up on stilts, and they're playing games with the kids, and they're like standing with their legs apart so the kids can run through these tunnels, and they're bouncing balls backwards and forwards. And, these guys on stilts are playing with balls and the kids. I'm just like, I hope nobody topples, but it was really fun to watch. It was a great festival atmosphere. This is in front of the palace in Vienna. And but just the markets, the Christmas markets are just something to be. Yes, they have ones that you can tell are like chains or known stores and stuff. But I liked the crafty one. There were a lot of ones that were just local artisans that were there with their goods and their wares and stuff. And those are the booths that I love to go to, because they're stuff we would never get anywhere else. But it was just such an incredible vacation that we had over there. So, yeah, we would be. Somebody just walked across our car pad area, and it's driving Zeffy nuts. I have to go see if they leave anything. Anyway, time for me to go. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling day. What are one of your favorite holiday memories and holiday/vacation? I'm going to change that so it says holiday/vacation. Just any time of the year, whatever time of the year that you went on vacation. What are some of your favorite ones? Write them down. What are some of your most memorable ones? Write them down. Anyway, I'm out of here. Go have a super fantastic, sparkling, magical Monday. Go create magic for the week. Set the intention that it's going to be a magical week, and we will catch you guys back here around 6 p.m. Pacific, Mountain Time. Hei konera.